Good morning, Year 3. Welcome to your Wednesday English lesson. Now, we are continuing with our letter today. We've got a few more days on this and then we're moving on to something else next week. But we are going to be having a look at another shape of our text, which is our learning shape, all the things that we've learned from having that letter and what positive things we've done to change. So we've got 3 learning chunks as always today, and a sentence or so for each one, really building using each lens and making sure we can be as exciting as we can in even a short sentence. So let's have a look at our first learning chunk. Edit that. So let's have a look at our first learning chunk. So we've got 2 initiates as always today. So our first initiate is focusing on our lens of feeling. So I'd like you to try and come up with some other words for sad, but I'd like us to see if we can use the prefix of dis and un. Now the prefix of dis and the prefix of un mean not. So for example, unhappy means not happy. So can you come up with a list of words for sad that use dis and un, please? Okay, so I already gave an example of unhappy there, but let's see what else we have got. So unhappy, disappointed, unappreciative. I've got disappointed there twice. I was obviously very disappointed. So all those words that we can use to describe that we were sad, we were disappointed in what happened, we were unappreciative. The pens definitely feel unappreciative, don't they? Okay, so our second initiate for today, we are going to see if we can use some alliterations. Now, an alliteration is when we have 2 or 3 words that start with the same sound. So don't necessarily always start with the same letter, but they start with the same sound. We are going to collect positive alliterations for describing the word pink. So nothing negative, all positive. Remember, we're trying to make these pens feel happy, and so positive words, positive description words will do the trick. So pause the video and positive alliteration words for pink, please. Okay, so we've got things like perfect pink, pretty pink, polite pink. All of those would make me feel very happy. So our first sentence that we're going to write about today is going to acknowledge the fact that we understand that pink, pretty pink, polite pink, whatever she is feeling sad. So all of us in year 3 understand why you are dissatisfied with the use of polite, pretty pink pen. So I've used a huge alliteration on the end there, polite, pretty pink pen, all of them beginning with that p sound. So I've started off by saying who. So all of us in year 3 understand why you are dissatisfied with the use of the pink pen. And I've used my other word for sad using my dis prefix here as well. So what I'd like you to do for your first sentence today, tell me who, what you understand about how upset pink is using that alliteration. So who understands it and how does pink feel, and trying to make them feel good with the alliterations. Pause the video 5-10 minutes or so to get your sentence written, please. Okay, so let's have a look at our second learning chunk today. Now we've got 2 initiates again, but let's just start with this one. So we understand that pink has been very upset, she's dissatisfied, but what we have done is we have learned how to be more creative. So more creative in using those felt tip pens, so not always doing the same things, you know, red for Christmas, red for Santa and green for grass, things like that. How can we be more creative? So what I'd like us to start off with is trying to find other words for the word creative, which is quite tricky. So thinking about a thesaurus might be good here. So even words like adventurous, so being more creative with our felt tip pens, being more adventurous with our felt tip pens. Can we think of any other words that would describe that we are going to be more creative now? So pause the video and jot them down in your third box, please. Okay, so this is probably quite tricky, but I've got some here for you if you were struggling. So creative, adventurous, explorative, imaginative, innovative, experimental, original, artistic, inspiring, resourceful. So all those kind of words are describing how we are going to be different with our felt tip pens. We are going to be innovative with our colours. We are going to be experimental with our colours, imaginative. So all of those words we can use to describe how we are now going to change using the felt tip pens. Okay, so our fourth initiate, our second one for this learning chunk, we're going to look at another time adverb. So when did we learn how to be more creative? So what lesson do you think we would have learnt this in, or what time of day, or be a little bit creative about when we were learning to be creative. So pause the video and jot down some time adverbs for when we learned to be more creative, please. Okay. Excuse me. So I have got words like in today's art lesson, today in art, or this morning. So I thought we would probably learn to be more creative, mainly in our art lessons, and we'd learn to use colour in lots of different ways. So that's what I focused on, and I've gone for a normal time adverb as well that isn't related to art that we could use as well. For example, this morning. So in this second learning chunk, what we are going to write about is basically saying when we have learned to be more creative. We're not going to talk about the exact things yet, but just giving the idea of when and the other word for creative. So in today's art lesson, we looked at different ways to be more adventurous with colours. So started off with my time adverb, told them what we did, and used that different word for creative. Now I've also underlined this little section here, which is to do with our punctuation. Now the art lesson belongs to today, so we need to have an apostrophe for possession followed by our S. If we took that apostrophe out, it would say that there are multiple today's art lessons, which doesn't make sense. The art lesson belongs to today, so we need that apostrophe for possession. So can you pause the video for me? You need to start with the time adverb to tell me when we learnt to be more creative, and then using another word for creative to explain what we did to be a little bit exciting with our colours. So pause the video 5 or 10 minutes for me, please. Okay, so for our third learning chunk today, what we're going to do is the felt tip pens, when they wrote to us, are fed up with being used for the same colours. So pink doesn't always want to be a princess, red doesn't always want to be Santa. So we're going to be acknowledging the fact that actually, you know what, we're learning from what you're saying, and we're going to use these in a more creative way, leading on from that previous learning chunk. So we're going to focus on pink. Now we need to think of some more exciting ways to describe pink. Now if we think back to our colour learning that we did a couple lessons ago last week, we looked at all those different paint names and we came up with some really fun creative ways to describe different colours. So we're going to do the same again, this time only focusing on pink. So how could you describe pink without saying pink? So pause the video for me and jot them down in your fifth box. Okay, so I've come up with things like bubblegum or neon or flamingo. So all of those words that we know mean pink, but just an exciting way of just saying rather than we're not going to colour this in pink. Make it fun. Okay, so we are going to talk about the fact that pink doesn't want to be used for princess anymore, but we're going to let her be used for scary animals because she probably hasn't been used for quite creepy things, like I said, just like princesses and stuff. So what I'd like us to do is to think about a scary creature and then think about what makes them scary, because pink is going to get to colour in whatever you think of in pink instead, to be a little bit more creative for her too. So in your sixth box, jot down your creature and what makes them scary, and try and do it so you've almost got like an adjective noun phrase, like flesh-eating zombie. So something scary and the reason why it's scary as well. Okay, so other examples I've got two are blood-sucking vampires or sharp-teethed snake. That should definitely be sharp-toothed snake. Sharp-toothed snakes. So you've got your phrase there that you can use that is quite a scary thing with your adjective and then your noun. So sharp-toothed snakes. So actually, in our learning chunk, what we're going to write about in a sec, we're going to say, you know, pink can be used, or bubblegum could be used for sharp tooth snakes. So make it exciting, show them that we've learned how to be more creative. So I'm going to start my sentence. You are right. A Tyrannosaurus might seem less ferocious coloured in bubblegum colour, and flesh-eating zombies would be easier to spot if they were neon pink. So we've started off by saying you're right, acknowledging the fact that they are correct, get them on our side. We've got to persuade them that we want them to come back to work for us. Now I've talked about my animals, my creatures here, Tyrannosaurus, and then they'll be less ferocious, flesh-eating zombies, all those kind of things. So I've used those creatures, and then I've talked about the pink in a different way of just saying pink. So we need to acknowledge the fact that they are correct. We then need to explain that actually these creatures wouldn't seem so ferocious. They'd be easier to spot if we did them in pink. Give pink a different thing that she can be used for rather than just princesses all the time. So describing it, saying, actually, you're right. Yeah, we could do that in pink. We could do that in pink. So making her feel really good. So your last learning chunk for me, 10-15 minutes. Off you go. Okay, so that was your Wednesday's lesson of English, talking about all the things that we have learnt. So we have learnt that actually, what, you are correct. We weren't using you properly. We've learnt to be more creative. This is what we are going to do now in a really fun, creative way using pink. So we've got 2 more lessons left of our letter. So tune in for tomorrow to move on to our next shape. Have a lovely day, guys.